When we talk about meta, we tend to talk in these grand, almost mythical terms, right? This all powerful, all seeing algorithm that's just shaping our entire reality, kind of like a digital god. But what if that's completely the wrong way to look at it? What if we've misunderstood the whole point of the machine from the get go? Let's dive in.
Okay, so our source material just drops this bombshell of a concept right at the start. It frames Meta not as a tech company, but as something way more intimate and way more invasive, a pharmacological architect of the human experience. Now, I know that sounds super academic, but stick with me, because it's absolutely crucial for understanding what's really going on here.
So, what on earth does that actually mean? A biopolitical pharmacopoly? Well, let's break it down. You've got an authority, in this case Meta, that's creating and controlling software specifically designed to act like a drug, a neurobiological stimulant. And the goal? It's simple, to make us dependent. To put it another way, Meta isn't just selling us ads, it's manufacturing and distributing a whole new kind of drug. And that right there brings us to our first big idea. We're going to really explore this concept of Meta as a new kind of digital god, an entity that administers these so-called digital drugs to its billions and billions of followers. So what are these digital drugs? Well, they're not pills, they're pixels. They are the carefully, meticulously crafted stimuli, the notifications, the infinite scroll, the autoplay videos that are all engineered to hijack our brain's reward systems. They're literally designed to bypass our conscious thought, our autonomy, and to hook us into behaviors like just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling.
So how do they actually do it? How does it work? Let's take a look under the hood at the mechanism of control. This is where it gets really fascinating and, frankly, kind of sinister. What we're seeing is a deliberate hijacking of legitimate science. You see, the very same neurobiological mechanisms that are used in clinical therapies, like releasing dopamine to reward healthy behaviors, are being weaponized by Meta. They trigger that exact same dopamine release, but not for our health. Oh no, it's to create this constant state of reward anticipation from unpredictable likes and notifications. It's taking a therapeutic tool and turning it into an instrument of addiction. And look, this isn't some accident. It's not an unforeseen consequence of the technology. This is a direct quote from Meta's own internal research. We're basically pushers. They knew. They literally documented the negative outcomes on teens, addiction, anxiety, depression, and they just kept going. The addictive design was a feature, not a bug. The really crucial point here is that this strategy, it's not even new. It follows the chillingly familiar playbook of big tobacco. Enhanced nicotine just becomes enhanced dopamine loops. Misleading light labels on cigarettes become these feel-good narratives about connecting people. And targeting kids with flavored cigarettes? Well, that becomes targeting them with infinite scroll and autoplay. It's the exact same script, just with a different digital product. But just capturing our attention, that's not the end game, not even close. The whole architecture of control is escalating towards something much, much more profound, the actual extraction of our thoughts and feelings. This is the climax of control. And this is where we get to the next phase, what the source calls the biometric enclosure. Meta is now integrating all these high-frequency sensors into its hardware, headsets, smart glasses, you name it, all to capture our internal physiological data. The goal is to move beyond simply holding our attention to actively extracting data from our bodies, from an attention economy to an extraction economy. So let's break down how this works, because it's pretty wild. High-frequency eye tracking knows exactly what you're looking at and for how long. Pupillometry actually measures the dilation of your pupils to figure out your emotional response to content in real time. And BCI, that's brain-computer interface integration, aims to decode your thought patterns directly from your brain. This isn't science fiction, people. This is their actual product roadmap. The implication here is, well, it's staggering. It's a concept called brain transparency. With this kind of tech, Meta can know what grabs your attention, what you desire, what you fear at a subconscious level, maybe even before you are consciously aware of it yourself. Which, of course, leads us to a massive critical question. When our internal biological reactions become just another resource to be harvested and sold, who is actually in control here? I mean, it feels like we're completely powerless against this digital god. But what if that feeling of powerlessness is the biggest deception of all? And that brings us to the pivot, the big reveal. It's time to pull back the curtain and see who or what is really running this whole show. The mens is the alpha and omega. This is a core philosophy from our source material. It's Dutch, and what it means is this: man is the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. It's a total pattern interrupt, a complete reframing of the entire problem. This is the hashtag Revelati. See, we've been conditioned to see meta as this godlike, inevitable, almost natural force. But this forces us to contrast that idea with the reality. It's not some omniscient algorithm. It's an intentional, profit-driven design. It is not a force of nature. It is a tool, and a tool built by fallible human architects. The most important takeaway here is this: the system is not a god. It's an instrument, a very powerful one, sure, but one that is wielded by human hands, by the Sugar Mountain, as our source colorfully calls him, and his priestly cast of engineers. They built the machine, they wrote the code, and that means they can be held accountable. Now, realizing that this isn't a god, but a man-made tool, that changes everything. It moves us from being helpless subjects to active participants. So this final section is all about the synthesis, how we can actually reclaim our cognitive liberty. So first, let's get on the same page about what we're even fighting for. It's called cognitive liberty, and it's the fundamental right to think for ourselves, to control our own mental processes, completely free from external technological manipulation. And the goal, the prize, is to achieve neurological sovereignty. This is the power, both for us as individuals and for our society as a whole, to control our own minds and the digital spaces we live in, to be the rulers of our own cognitive domain. So how do we get there? I mean, if the system is man-made, it can be resisted by man-made means, right? This is a multi-front strategy. Technologically, with tools that can disrupt their sensors. Legally, with new laws that treat our neural data as our personal property. Socially, by defending real-world analog communities. And psychologically, by consciously choosing our long-term health over those short-term digital rewards. And this isn't just some theory or wishful thinking. This is already happening. There are small communities all over the world that are actively defending what the source calls the physicality of interpersonal relations. They're choosing real, messy, analog connection over the clean, dematerialized, synthetic sociality that the machine is offering. So we've seen that the God in the machine is a myth. Behind the curtain, it's just a man. The system is man-made, which means it can be unmade, or at least remade. So the final question isn't if we can reclaim our minds, we can. The real question is if we possess the Stecker Rede, the stronger reason to actually do it.